You are being. You are a human being, and if you forget the being, then you won't have the whole. The human signifies experiences, feelings, being human, making mistakes, learning. But the being is such an important part of the human being experience. But maybe we've forgotten. Maybe we've forgotten how to be, and that being is essential and important. Before I started today's video, I wanted to have the perfect conditions, the perfect circumstance for this video, for the being, to represent being, because being to me represents calmness and gratitude and peace. But the circumstances wanted it different, and I understand why. There will always be external noise. There will always be something going on in your life. There will always be a lot. There will always be change. There will always be movement. And that's okay. That's the human part. That's the human circumstance. That's what surrounds us. But what we need to remember is that the being means creating the peace within ourselves, no matter the circumstances. This is why we can learn how to mindfully practice being in whatever the circumstance. Ideally, we imagine being in a peaceful environment where there are no distractions. We imagine meditation as having to be in a peaceful forest, but even the forest holds its noise, its shadows. There's a lot of life going on, and being doesn't need to be without the human. What I have learned on my self-healing journey is how important being is. Not only being present, but being aware, noticing, just being there. And how important this is if you want to create that life where you have everything. Because everything is easily possible for you. What we need to learn is to experience the feelings that we want. We have a range of feelings, of emotions, and that's okay. It's a joy to be able to experience them in this life. But at the same time, if there is some uncomfortableness, for example, chronic pain within the body, if there is some unease, if it seems like it's overwhelming, the life you're living, if it's just sometimes too much, what you really need is the being. Is the being present, is the being practice. And I will put the following videos will be the practice itself of being. And as it seems there's nothing in them, there is everything. Because you can find your everything in the being if you have lost your way or if you don't know. And whenever you don't know, being comes into place as such an important part. Being is the restoring of your inner peace. Reconnecting with the knowing, with the guidance, with the intuition. We cannot hear our intuition if we're constantly overwhelmed, if our system is constantly triggered, if we need triggers, if we're waiting for something to go wrong, if we're waiting for the next and next challenge. What we can reestablish in our lives is being, and you don't need anything for it. You don't need any special workout clothes. You don't need any special environment. And even though I'm in this beautiful forest right now, there is someone chainsawing right there. There just came a aeroplane over my head. And that's okay, because this will be your daily circumstances. And this is where you can start. I used to think I will deal with my chronic pain when I have the right conditions. I will deal with my anxiety when I know how to. But the truth is, you can start right now with no prior experience, no knowledge, even with not being able to be. If being with yourself and doing nothing just for a few minutes a day is something triggering to you, then do less. Do 1 minute, do a few seconds. It is really about just stopping and becoming aware, even if it's for a few seconds, and then you extend it from there. It is the beginning. It's the beginning you can do right now. And maybe you're not even able to start being. Maybe the idea of it makes you anxious itself, of the idea that you're gonna not do, not occupy your mind, not have a million things going on. If you're so used to being overwhelmed, if you cannot do your work without doing something at the same time, if you cannot do an activity without another one, if you are so overwhelmed that multitasking has become your normal state, your mind and your body, your nervous system has been long-term overstimulated. And I used to be like that. I couldn't just be. I had to do and listen to music, do and watch something, do and talk to someone, but think at the same time. But that's not present being. And whatever the disease of the body is, whatever diagnosis you think you might have, it all stems from the overstimulation. But the one that is putting on the most stimulation in your life is unfortunately only you. Because unfortunately, we choose to be overstimulated. We choose to do multiple things at one time. We have come to believe that doing more will bring us more into our lives. We constantly fear of missing out on something, missing out on the new episode, missing out on the news, missing out on the new hits, missing out on not using your time to the fullest, missing out on not experiencing enough. Today's world is presented as the one you should be constantly experiencing. But is that the truth? Is that what will make you happy? Now take a moment to think, are you happy right now? Are you satisfied with yourself? Do you feel like you're doing enough? Do you feel like you're enough? Do you feel like you deserve to be here in this life? Do you feel motivated to wake up every morning to be here? Do you feel overwhelmed that there's so many things you need to do, or do you know what's essential for you to do? Because you didn't come here to be overwhelmed. You chose to come here. You chose to live this experience. And now you're choosing to work unawarely, to be constantly overstimulated. You choose to believe that what's outside is defining you, that what's happening in front of your eyes is defining you. But the truth is, you define you. You define how this life goes. You define whether you're successful or not. And with that, the energy in your life reflects that, reflects those beliefs, reflects that satisfaction. Are all your needs satisfied? And what are you doing to satisfy them? How are you feeling right now? Write it down, feel into it, just be there for a second. How are you truly feeling right now? Is there a pain in your body? Is there something uncomfortable? Is there something that's not even keeping your attention here on this video? Is there something that's calling you to the things, what's next? What's next? What do I need to do after this? The answer to all is being, is coming back to yourself, is coming back to alignment. It's not consuming more. It's not getting the next thing. It's not chasing something out there, but it's what you can create within. And then if you want to create it within, you must spend the time and the attention to create it. We create everything in our lives from within. How do you want to be treated? That's how you're treating others. There's no other way. The way you treat others is the way you're gonna be treated. And the way you treat yourself is gonna reflect on how you're feeling. When did you last allow yourself to be present, to be here with yourself, without nothing else, without pure being? Is it scary for you? Does it trigger you, the idea of being and not doing? Do you fear you're gonna miss out on something? Do you fear that if you cook intentionally and you're present while cooking, you'll miss out on something if you're not at the same time watching a series, listening to a podcast? Do you fear you're gonna miss out or lose some time if you're driving and at the same time you have to be stimulated with something else? You have to listen to something. You have to do something else. Because we rarely realize how many actions we're doing at the same time. And as long as there are multiple actions with every instant, with every minute in our day, sooner or later, if we continue at that pace, we're gonna become overwhelmed, of course. Your mind is here producing infinite thoughts. You have access to infinite thoughts. But if you take that access, you have access to the positive and to the negative and to the neutral. But if you take that access as serious truth, if you take what you think and hold it in as your truth, that's where the limitation begins. That's where you're holding yourself back. You're not allowing the flow. You're trying to grasp on life, you're trying to know, but the knowing is the change. The knowing is the intuition that talks to you with a calm voice. It's often the not doing, not taking action, which is the most scary. Because what are we afraid of? If it works out or if it doesn't? So you are your being, and it's very important to come back to be. Because with every action, maybe you're overstimulating yourself. And pain of the body is only the result of all of that. Chronic pain is not addressing your needs before something else. The belief that something else is more important than you right now. The belief that how you feel isn't important. What if you are there with yourself right now? Because the pain, we think it's just pain, but it holds everything that's been suppressed. It holds everything that hasn't been listened to. It holds all the grief that we didn't want to feel. It holds all the sadness. It holds all the injustice that we didn't want to feel. It holds all the anger and even the joy, even the satisfaction that we weren't able to feel enough, or we didn't allow ourselves, maybe not to outshine someone else, maybe not to feel someone else better. The pain holds it all. The all you're not allowing yourself to radiate, to shine into the world. Because every one of us is able to experience the satisfaction with oneself, the joy of life, the present conscious being, the knowing that you have everything in your life right now. And it's multiplying. It's only getting better for you. It's only gonna work out the best way. No matter the situation, everything's happening for you, and every even bad experience has come into your life to make you more experienced, to make you stronger. In the following videos, join me to be. Join me to be. Join me to be. I will do one guided version and one pure being. You can listen to them repetitively, but know that all the answers, everything you really need to know is hidden in your being. If you're never gonna stop, if you're never gonna think, am I on the right path? Then you cannot listen to your intuition. Then you cannot listen to what's being said to you. Recently, I've been hearing simplicity. Simplicity, simplicity. It's often easy to forget about it, but I know that I live by it as a mantra, that life is simple and everything in life is simple. And if you're doing too much for it, or if it seems too complicated, then you're not doing it the right way. It must be more simple. Because every overwhelming yourself, every frustration, every desperation of wanting to reach what you want right now is actually repulsing you from what you want. It's distancing you from what you want. Because it's distancing you from the knowing how to be it, how to have it right now. It's about being what you want to then have. What is it that you want to have in your life? And in chronic pain, it's as simple as I feel pain, I'm not addressing it, I feel like it's not important right now because I have to do something else. But what do I want instead of the pain? Relief. Or is it? Because we have learned to be that, or be with pain, and not pay too much attention to it. Over years, you've accepted, yeah, I wake up, there's pain. Throughout the day, there's pain. But how can I be the relief instead? Easily, in a very simple way. If relief is what I want, or is it joy that I want instead of pain? Or is it excitement, maybe? Or is it sadness? Or is it anger? What do I want instead of pain right now? How do you want to feel? And it can happen in an instant. It happens in an instant. Once you tune in, instead of the frequency of the pain, with the frequency of the relief. What's the relief? What's the frequency of relief? When did you last feel it? How can you induce it? Because any medication that you take is helping you experience what you are able to experience on your own. How can you induce it for yourself, that feeling that you want? So the important step in chronic pain or any disease or uncomfortableness in the body is stopping to be. Because in the being we can notice, we can realize, okay, it's here. And what do I want instead? This feeling is here. But can I change it? I can in an instant. How? Tune in with the frequency. That and so much more holds being. You are your being. I invite you to be.